Welcome along to Sydney Motorsport Park for round 5 of the Shaw Vineyards New South Wales Production Touring Car Championship. Another 1 hour endurance race in the Mocom Cup Endurance Series. The cars are getting themselves gridded up, ready for a race start, and the news is that for the first time in season 2015, Dylan Thomas has not taken pole position. In fact, he will start out of grid position number 4. Pole position went the way of the BMW M135i of Luke Searle and his co-driver Barry Graham. Let's check out the grid positions, and it is Searle and Graham in position number 1. Steve Hodges out of position 2. Daniel and Jacques Oosthuizen will line up in grid position 3. Dylan Thomas in 4th position. Tony Virag in 5th position ahead of Anthony Sewell and Glenn Townsend. Brett Healy and Jamie McKinlay will line up in 7th on the grid ahead of Paul Lane and Trevor Simmons. A bit further down the order, good to see Peter Lowenman and Paul Loyakono making their return to production touring cars. And Robert Coulthard missed the start of the race. He will have to start from pit lane. He was caught doing a wheel change. Green flag at the rear of the field, so not too far away from a race start in the 5th round of the New South Wales Production Touring Car Series. Let's see who gets the jump. Plenty of onboard cameras to cover all of the action today. The red lights are on. The field gets released. And it's a slow start off the front row from Steve Hodges. A great start from the second row of the grid from Dylan Thomas. And he's going to jump from position 4 up into position 2 by the time they reach turn 1. A bit further back in the pack, plenty of midfield battles to keep an eye on. And Jeff Kite already looking to make up a position as he's down on the inside of Mark Kane on the run through the high-speed turn number 1. And Dean Kellen gets into the back of Jamie Hodgson at turn 2. Hodgson runs wide. Kellen just about manages to hold on to the position. There's a bit further back in the pack, that's Mark Kane getting down the inside of the Loyakono and Lone Mitsubishi Evo. And out in front, Dylan Thomas already challenging up on the back of the BMW, which Luke Searle has taken for the opening stint. Searle very sideways through turn 5. That'll give Thomas the invitation to look up the inside on the run into turn 6. But the BMW very strong under brakes, and Searle manages to hold out the Evo and Dylan Thomas for the time being. Steve Hodges has slotted into position 3 after that slow start, and it's pretty willing back in the mid-pack with Jeff Kite having a look down the inside of Mark Kane through Corporate Hill. Very wide goes Mark Kane. The battle's not over yet as Mark Kane fights back down on the inside of Jeff Kite into turn 8. The hairpin, the cars will still be side by side on the exit of the corner, and finally the battle is resolved in favour of Mark Kane as Dylan Thomas attacks the back of Luke Searle through turn 11, the final corner. He turns it in a bit earlier, and he's right on the tail, right in the slipstream of the BMW 135i as they head down the main straight. Our 2 race leaders have opened up a nice buffer over the HSV Coupe of Steve Hodges, and Tony Virag, a pretty handy start as well. He's already up to 4th position as we see the Dean Kellen and Kerry Morsink HSV GTO Coupe getting past the Loyakono and Lowen down the main straightaway and into the first corner. Also making up a position a bit further back, that's Anton Metschler in the Product Racing Mitsubishi Evo 8. Good to see Metschler back in the field this weekend. He'll share that car with Jason Walsh for this 1 hour endurance race. And more moves happening down at turn 2 as Joe Krinolos gets up the inside of Peter Lowen to grab another position. The battle continues. Dylan Thomas has not let Luke Searle escape in the front of this motor race. And Thomas's car seems particularly strong through these constant radius corners around the back part of the Sydney Motorsport Park complex. The BMW, though, very, very good under brakes. As we see that Joe Krinolos is back in behind Peter Lowen and will get down the inside of him into turn 6. So those 2 cars have swapped positions a couple of times this lap. Krinolos back in front. Mark Kane looking down the inside of Nigel Williams into turn 8, the hairpin. Nigel Williams has got Graham Muir just ahead of him, so that's a pretty willing battle at the moment between a number of HSV V8 powered cars. But as they complete another lap, it's Luke Searle who continues to lead this race. ahead of Dylan Thomas. Those top two cars have really extended a gap now over Steve Hodges, who continues to hold out third position, and very sideways coming onto the main straight goes Nigel Williams. That'll give Mark Kane the incentive down the main straight away. That really compromised the exit speed for Williams, and Kane's going to be on the inside as they head into turn one, side by side, very tight. Williams shuts the door, and a bit further back in the pack, another car running very wide out of turn 11, the final corner as well. I think that was Kane Booker in the Toyota 86. And Jeff Kite continuing his battle with Mark Kane further down the order as well. And Jerry Murphy not too far away from that contest either, as Joe Krinolos and Peter Lowen continue their battle. Lowen back in front now, and we've got a slowing car coming through turn 2. I think that's Gordon Wilson in the Potts Motorsport entry. And he looks to be limping back to pit lane as Jeff Kite now gets a good run out of turn 3. He'll be positioned down on the inside of Nigel Williams at turn 4. Good awareness there from Williams to give Kite just enough room to get the move done. And Jeff Kite moves forward another position. Dylan Thomas heads through turn 8. He's still right on the tail of Luke Searle in the BMW, and it looks like Searle's missed a gear. Thomas blasts past on the run up into turn 9. That was, in the end, a very easy move there for Dylan Thomas. But it looks like Searle just got his gear change wrong there on the exit of the hairpin, turn number 8. Thomas saw the opportunity and he pounced, and he goes through to take the lead of this 1 hour endurance race at Sydney Motorsport Park. Luke Searle, though, he won't give up, and he's right in the slipstream of Dylan Thomas. This battle will certainly continue. Looking down the inside into turn 1, but Thomas now has the ascendancy, and he shuts the door in the battle for the race lead. So Dylan Thomas, who's been very much the dominant performer in the 1 hour endurance races right throughout 2015, out in front, but we've got problems for the second of the CXC cars. It's a lost wheel. Young Jacob Andrews making his Tin Top Racing debut this weekend after a great run in Formula V competition in the last couple of years. Finds himself parked on the side of the main straight, and the second CXC Global Mitsubishi Evo's day is done, and we're not even inside the pit window. Steve Hodges comes into the pits as well, so he must have a problem, given that the pit window has not opened yet for the compulsory pit stop. It's too early for him to be coming in, so looks like problems for the car that was running third in the motor race as well. On board with Graham Muir, great to have him back in production touring cars this weekend. And he's in behind the car of Kane Booker, the Chris Reeves built Toyota 86. And Muir gets the run on Booker out of turn number 8, but that's actually balked up Graham Muir, and that will allow Jacques Oosthuizen to gain a position on the run into turn 9. So great opportunistic driving there from young Oosthuizen. He picks up a position there as a result of Muir being balked up by that laps car. A bit further back in the pack, we've got another battle. This is Anton Metschler, who started further down the order, getting down the inside of Tony Virag into turn 1. That is a change in position as Anton Metschler continues his march forward in the Products Racing Mitsubishi Evo 8, the car that he's sharing with Jason Walsh. But Virag wants to dispute that, and he recaptures that place from Metschler into turn 2. Dylan Thomas now starting to encounter some laps traffic, and if anything, that works to Thomas's advantage. He's opened up a margin over his main rival in Luke Searle, not too far away from the opening of the compulsory pit stop window, so we'll start to see all of our front-running cars diving in momentarily, and Thomas is going to come in this time around. He was probably starting to get held up a bit by some of the laps traffic, so he's decided that now's as good a time as any to get his compulsory pit stop out of the way. More cars in pit lane as well, including Nigel Williams, who leaves pit lane now. We've got the GWS car, which is being shared by the O'Donnell brothers in as well. So too Joe Krinolos and Chris Reeves, all completing their compulsory stops. Jeff Kite currently leading the way in Class B. He's starting to work his way through some of the slower cars as well. And Robert Coulthard, who started this race from pit lane, running a longer opening stint to try and gain some positions while he's got a bit of clear track at his disposal. Let's head down now to the pit lane where Prod Touring President Jerry Murphy is with one of our competitors, Mark Kane.
Mark, you're one of the major sponsors for New South Wales Production Touring. It's obviously not a motorsport affiliated company. Why have you chosen Production Touring?
Well, for us, we believe that it's a good fit. Everybody's got to eat, so it doesn't matter whether it's a motorsport or an air show or what it might be. We try to get to people when they're not perhaps thinking about food, but at the end of the day, everyone's got to eat. Yeah.
So why Production Touring?
Well, I think Production Touring is probably the most up-and-coming category in Australian motorsport. I think there's an underlying feeling out there from petrol heads that we want to see cars that you can see race on Sunday and drive to work on Monday, and that's the spirit of this thing. So also it's gentlemen races. It's not people with huge dollars necessarily. There's a lot of privateers, so you get that. It's just a really good category for that. So there's a big mixture of people.
And we noticed you've got your pyjamas on.
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
Mixed feelings. We actually did very well in the sprint races. Unfortunately, we had a clutch problem in the Enduro just now, so it saw us retire on probably about a lap 20. So that's gutted, but it's been a great weekend, and that's motor racing.
So great to have the support of Mark Kane, his brother Michael, of course, and the Massell Company supporting the New South Wales Production Touring Car Series. Unfortunately, though, a retirement for Kane and his co-driver Josh Muggleton today due to those mechanical dramas. Most of the compulsory pit stops are now out of the way, so we're in the final sprint to the line, and Dylan Thomas, throughout that pit stop shuffle, has opened up an advantage over the BMW of Luke Searle and Barry Graham. Graham now behind the wheel of that car for the closing stint. And Thomas has what you would describe as a pretty commanding margin at this stage, so he will be hoping that the race runs safety car free right through to the checkered flag. And he's on target to take another big bundle of points, which will further extend his points advantage heading into the final round of the Production Touring Car Series for 2015, which will also be held at Sydney Motorsport Park, but will feature a sprint race format. Tony Virag, who's inside the top 5, now gets lapsed by Dylan Thomas. So only 4 cars remaining on the lead lap at this stage. Thomas just opening up the gap over the rest of his rivals. Tony Virag actually sits second in Class A2 at the moment, behind Brett Healy and Jamie McKinlay. The top 3 cars in the race, Dylan Thomas, the Luke Searle, Barry Graham BMW, and also the Jacques and Daniel Usthausen Mitsubishi Evo are all in Class A1. A bit further down the order, we've got a battle for what will be 3rd position in Class A2 between Graham Muir and the Paul Lane Trevor Simmons HSV as well, which has Trevor Simmons on board for this closing stint. And that's a pretty hot contest at the moment between those 2 cars, and they're catching up to the Class D leader as well, which is Chris Reeves. He is a couple of laps down, of course, and still punching very hard within his class. And because the point system for Production Touring is based on where each driver finishes within their class, Chris Reeves is on target to pick up a very healthy points haul as well, which will do his chances of back-to-back victories in this series no harm whatsoever. Worth highlighting as well, it's been a great performance from Robert Coulthard. He started this race from pit lane. He's up inside the top 10, so a great performance from Coulthard. Good to see Tony Virag's car still circulating as well. He's had his fair share of mechanical problems throughout season 2015, but right now his A-Series HSV is running like a train. That car is inside the top 5 in terms of the outright race positions. And Virag goes past the Toyota 86 of David Bailey, which is running in the top 3 in Class D at the moment, as Trevor Simmons starts to get impatient, gives Graham Muir a bit of a tap heading into turn 5. Muir, though, is able to extend just a bit of breathing space over Simmons by the time those two cars start to negotiate their way around Corporate Hill. There's our Class A2 leader, Brett Healy, going through at the moment. He's just ahead of Nandy Kiss, but Kiss is a lap down in that battle. Pretty tricky situation at this point when you've got cars travelling at all different speeds. A lot of traffic to be negotiated by most of the competitors. One man who doesn't have any such problems at this point, though, is Dylan Thomas. He's been too fast for anybody to match right throughout this race. He may not have qualified on pole position, but the race has certainly worked out to the advantage of the CXC Global team, which, apart from Dylan Thomas driving extremely well, the team are also renowned for being some of the most efficient pit crew, and that has helped Dylan Thomas build up a massive advantage over the rest of the field throughout this race. So fastest lap of the race set by Dylan Thomas that time around as well, 1:44.4. That's a very handsome lap time from the CXC Global Racing Mitsubishi Evo. And Dylan Thomas and BMW and Searle and Graham, the only two cars into the 44 bracket. All of the other key runners running in the 46s at this stage of the race. And Thomas has got just a couple of corners left to negotiate before he takes another race victory in at the New South Wales Production Touring Car Championship for the 2015 season. What an exemplary drive it's been. The checkered flag will be at the ready this time around. And Dylan Thomas heads over to get the applause from his pit crew. Round 5 of the Shaw Vineyards New South Wales Production Touring Car Championship goes to Dylan Thomas. A dominant victory from the CXC Global Racing team. And he will head into the final round as the championship leader. Great performance from Luke Searle and Barry Graham. They will come home in a very strong second position as on the final lap, Graham Muir runs wide and hands that position to Trevor Simmons. He'll be a bit frustrated making that mistake so close to the checkered flag. Graham Muir. Although it's going to be a drag race to the line between those two, and Muir will get the position back. So a great battle for what would be third position in Class B2, and sixth position outright goes the way of Graham Muir by the barest of margins. Thomas, your race winner. Searle and Graham second. The Uththausen brothers finish third. McKinlay and Healy in fourth position. And outside the top 10, Peter Lone and Paul Loiacono finish 11th in their return to the category. Good performance as well from Jeff Kite, who finishes up 13th outright. Quite a few DNFs to run through. The Bathurst boys, Blake and Kyle Orban in the Renault, fail to finish as we run through the class results. Dylan Thomas, your winner in Class A1. Class A2 went the way of Brett Healy and Jamie McKinlay, ahead of Virag and Muir. Class B1, Peter Lowe and Paul Loiacono getting home for the win in that class. Jeff Kite wins Class B2. Class C, the O'Donnell brothers lead home the fellow BMW of Adam Gosling, and in Class D it's Toyota 86s in positions 1, 2 and 3. That concludes all the action from round 5 in the Shaw Vineyards New South Wales Production Touring Car Championship. Hope you've enjoyed all the action. On behalf of Production Touring Cars, I'm Lachlan Mansell. See you next time. Bye for now.
Excellent. And our traditional closing question, you're on Gilligan's Island, Ginger or Marianne?
Ginger, for sure, yeah.
I think so.